Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. It's the Friday, June 5th, 2026 episode of the Marco Duray Show, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Time to hit the ground running on this fast-paced Friday edition to close out the first week of June with no time to waste. But before that happens, I do want to tell you that first we have to review all things economics today, which none of you will want to miss anything I'm talking about, as we always have a great show in the works for you with what's going on with our economy. Afterwards, we'll always dissect our stock market report to a T and what to look for there. And what better place to begin today's show with an article written in Fortune magazine. Let's get down to brass tacks. I'm pleased to be able to tell you something positive that's happening in our economy today. And that is that the Bureau of Labor Statistics now has reported that employers have added some 172,000 new jobs in the month of May alone. And this figure is above all estimates that economists were polled, estimating that they predicted some 88,000 jobs. Now, the even stronger surprise was in the rearview mirror. March was revised up by 29,000 new jobs, bringing us to 214,000 jobs created. In April, by 64,000 new jobs, bringing it to a total of 179,000. So the combined 2 months were 93,000 stronger than had previously reported. We saw previously, in many cases, sometimes those numbers get revised down. Well, the opposite is happening right now, according to the recent payrolls coming from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So on that front, it's very, very positive that we're gaining jobs, not losing jobs. That's something I think we all can be very happy about. However, there is a caveat that comes along with this. We still have unemployment somewhere around the 4.3% level right now, simply where it's been since last July. We know at one point it was 4.6%, up from the 4% when Trump first took office. So we need to bring that unemployment number down absolutely 100%. But we are seeing where the jobs are going. What sectors are really taking these jobs? Are these all good paying jobs? That's what we need to be asking ourselves here. Now, while the job market is rebounding in 2026 after a very weak 2025 turnout, after all the revisions were said and done, the economy had added roughly 10,000 jobs a month in 2025. That is not good growth. So we're certainly on a better pace in 2026. Right now in 2026, we're averaging about 114,000 new jobs every single month. So I think we all could, again, be happy about this. But under the hood, what are we looking at right here? The hiring is still relatively concentrated in areas such as leisure and hospitality. Think restaurant, think bars, think entertainment. 70,000 jobs just in the month of May. Again, 5 times what it was in its 12-month average. We're looking at hiring about 48,000 in that category alone. And then we move on to the next big number. We have local governments adding some 55,000 jobs. Healthcare taking 35,000. So when we look at it, we have probably the lower paying jobs in the hospitality and the leisures. Healthcare jobs don't always tend to be doctors and nurses and techs and all that great stuff. Sometimes they tend to be, again, the lower paying jobs that work within that field. Again, better having jobs than none. But look at the government jobs being added. To me, that shocks me quite a bit. Local government is adding 55,000 jobs in 1 month. Now, meanwhile, we're seeing financial activities being cut, 22,000 jobs in the month of May. And that is down some 170,000 from its peak just a year ago, and transportation and warehousing has shed some 92,000 jobs since early 2025. The other issue we're seeing, and this is why I say this to you. Yes, we're happy that jobs numbers are up. I'm happy about that. You should be happy about that. We want the economy to grow. We want more people working that want jobs, of course. But we're not seeing it translate into the paychecks right now. The average hourly earnings rose some 3.4% over the year, the slowest pace in 4 years. And now we're looking at an inflation rate somewhere around 4%. So Americans are getting hired faster and paid less in real terms simultaneously. I told you before, the inflationary rate is going to be a big problem right now. And people tend to think that, for example, Scott Bessent telling you that it's going to be a very short blip. A blip on the screen. The inflation will be transitory. We heard that from Janet Yellen, right? During the Biden administration as Treasury Secretary. It's going to be transitory. Yeah, it's just going to be a very little bit of time. Everything's going to go back to normal. Well, it never has. It never has. And, I'm looking at the rest of this article. I want to see things like manufacturing. Where are the manufacturing jobs? Certainly not very many. I think there was only about 7,000, maybe, that were created of all this. So we need to get the good-paying jobs back that build the middle class. We're not seeing that just yet. That's something we want. Those are jobs we want people to have because, again, they tend to be higher paying, which are very good. That's what we want. We want the industry to come back to the United States. That's going to grow GDP as well. That's exactly what we need, and that's what Trump needs to do moving forward. Now, having said all this to you, I focus on the inflationary rate. Why do I do that? Because this is going to be driving prices for the remainder of 2026 and beyond that. And an article right here in Politico tells us that the oil industry has now warned the Trump administration of price spikes within weeks. So what is Scott Bessent talking about when he tells you that the inflationary rate is transitory? It's not. It's going to be something that stays with us for quite some time, certainly as long as this war continues on. So we know exactly what's going on, what's driving this. It's the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. We've seen this. We know, for example, as I said on yesterday's program to you, 31% of the global oil supply shut off from the rest of the world. Now, of course, some goes to China, some goes here and there, but the traffic is down some 90% coming out of the Persian Gulf. That can't go on for much longer. And I think Trump is starting to realize that. 25% of the global liquefied natural gas, again, in standstill. 35% of the sulfur and urea needed for crop production. We need this, folks. This isn't just something that is wishful thinking. This is something we need in order to survive. Otherwise, the Green Revolution, upends itself. How many of you have a garden of your own? How many of you raise your own livestock and chickens and what have you? Very few of you. For those of you that do, good for you, by the way. But we're not that type of society anymore. We're a society that has been built on this big agricultural community coming together and producing the dairy, the beef, the chicken, you name it. That's what's out there. And if they can't plant their crops, what do we do then? We're in a lot of trouble. And by the way, we're seeing herd sizes, the smallest they've been in some 75 years, folks. Our population has since doubled since then. So we're looking at some very troubling times ahead, especially in the food pricing and, of course, the energy pricing as well. 44% of helium, which is, again, needed for the manufacturing of computer chips, the semiconductors, that's in a standstill. And then on top of it, you have things like aluminum, other things of that nature, all coming out of the Persian Gulf that are no longer coming out. And as I relayed to you yesterday, the ships that had left prior to this war beginning have all reached their final destinations now. So we haven't even seen the supply chain issue that we're going to be seeing very, very soon. I think this article highlights this very, very well. And, kicking off what has become now one of the biggest disruptions in the crude oil flows ever. We haven't seen anything like this. This is the problem. We can't compare this to any other time in history because we've never seen anything so ridiculous like this. Now, I'm against the war for many reasons. Number one, we didn't have to go and do this to Iran. We didn't have to do this. We could have met at the table. We could have had a diplomatic negotiation working to resolve our issues, to hopefully stop the Iranians from developing a nuclear weapon. That's now gone. And the reports I'm getting, of course, as you've heard from my shows earlier this week, that Iran is considering building a nuclear weapon and demonstrating that they have that access somewhere inside the Iranian border very, very soon. That could be either to their benefit or to their demise. Either way, it's nothing positive. So either they get the North Korea treatment, everyone leaves Iran alone, which I doubt will happen, or they detonate a nuclear bomb, and then Israel goes in and attacks them, tries to get it from them. Again, nothing positive is coming from this. But I think it's giving the message, of course, that if you want to be left alone by Israel and the United States, Develop a nuclear bomb. They'll leave you alone after that. Now, I say all this to you. Why? Because now, as a result of this standstill in the negotiation, which, again, I'm told the negotiations are not moving at all. The Iranians have since left the negotiations. They've come out and said this. I'm worried this war will kick up yet again, despite President Trump hearing this new information that the Iranians may have access to a nuclear weapon right now. But we have to think about also the economic ramifications of this. Countries are drawing down on their supplies. Certainly, Trump has drilled into our strategic petroleum reserve. So the lowest has been since it was formed in 1984. We're seeing fuel storage tanks to make up for the shortage of supply coming out of the Middle East, but inventories are now running dangerously low. And companies and market analysts are now sounding the alarm that the spike in pricing could come later this month. I've been saying this to you for quite some time now, have I not? I said once that final shipment of oil reaches its final destination, runs through the refineries here, then the real panic has to set in. So all these dummies, since the start of this war, said, this is so brilliant, this is so fantastic, we took out the Ayatollah, everything's going to be great now. And I said, these idiots don't know what they're talking about. You now martyred the guy. You're now entering a time where you have a much more hard-line government coming in. This is going to have economic ramifications because I told you before this war started, the Iranians will close down that strait. And what happened? The Iranians closed down that strait. So all those people right in the beginning, when this took place, they were championing this, how great it was, how brilliant it was. We couldn't do it at a much better time. We finally got rid of that damn Ayatollah. Look where we are now. Now you have his son, who fought in the Iran-Iraq war, who are standing up to the United States and Israel, saying, listen, we're not going to open up this strait just because you tell us to. You're going to have to give us X, Y, and Z first. And Trump is saying, we're not doing any of that. Well, look what's happening right now. The strait is still effectively closed down. The naval blockade is essentially useless. We know that ships have been traversing and getting past them every single day. Again, why are we there? Let's get out of the region. Let's move out. Let the Iranians reopen the strait. If they have a toll system, that's going to be on them. It's their territorial waters, despite what you've heard from Trump and Marco Rubio and Scott Bessent and all the other dunces and political pundits who think they know what the hell they're talking about. The strait is very small, folks. Only 21 miles, roughly. Again, Oman's on the other side. Iran's on the eastern side of it. 12 miles out is their territory. There you go. Pretty simple math, folks, right? It's their territorial water, and they will control that moving forward because, again, they have to rebuild everything that we've destroyed inside their country, which is quite a lot. So this is going to be, I guess, a payback to them, but now it gives them opportunity to have even more money given to them moving forward. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. We've put Iran in a much stronger position, but they understand that the economic problems that are resulting in this, especially in the West, even to their allies in Asia, is going to make Donald Trump look very bad. It's going to make Netanyahu look very bad moving forward. And I fear as long as this war goes on, we will really start to see those prices spiking up, certainly in the oil, and obviously certainly in the food and the retail prices. Everything is going to be affected by this. Now, some of the conversation have been a general warning, while others have been focused on tighter inventories of specific fuel types in certain particular locations, such as jet fuel on the West Coast. But the problem is, if you don't have the supply at all, you can't do anything about that. So when you choke off a complete oil supply out of the Persian Gulf, you got nothing to do with it. You can drill for more oil, hopefully. But how long is that process going to take? You can say we're getting oil from Venezuela. You're only getting about 700,000 barrels of oil from Venezuela per day. It's extremely thick crude oil. It takes a lot to refine it. That takes a longer process to do so. And you also have to truck it here. Excuse me, not truck it, but you have to send it on oil tankers. So you have to ship it to the United States. How long is that process going to take? So it's not just this quick thing and this quick fix that Trump thought it was going to be, which is why you heard CEOs saying that everything is, what did he say? Uninvestable. We have new words now with the Trump foreign policy. It's uninvestable to obviously take over Venezuela and throw their leader in jail for bogus crimes. Anyways, I digress. Exxon's from ExxonMobil. Did I say Exxon's from ExxonMobil? Executives from ExxonMobil. Chevron and other oil companies are now raising the alarm publicly, warning last week that fuel prices are now poised to jump if inventory levels continue their rapid decline. The average gasoline price in the United States was $4.26 a gallon on Wednesday, according to AAA, $1.28 higher than it was before the war started. Off the levels near $4.50 have reached just a few weeks ago. Yep, there we go. And by the way, Neil Chapman, who's the Exxon senior vice president, told an investor conference last week saying that the benchmark for the physical crude oil price could hit up to $150 and $160 per barrel soon if that scenario plays out as is. And that's the reality of it, folks. We're looking at $92 per barrel for Brent crude right now. West Texas Intermediate, I think, is around $90 right now. Can you imagine if the prices spike another $60 per barrel, what that's going to do to oil prices? It's going to almost double them from where they are right now. So we're looking at some very troubling times moving forward. It's going to have a dramatic effect on our economy. We know that the U.S. crude stocks held by companies fell by 8 million barrels just last week, the 8th straight week of decline. And now they're 3% below the 5-year average. Again, this is coming from the U.S. Energy Information Administration reports just this week. And, now what we're doing, what are we doing? What did I just tell you? Trump is now releasing 8 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve last week. Again, trying to bring prices down to mitigate the effects of this war that we don't need to be involved in. Now, we know Biden drastically reduced it during his administration, again, to help with the woe of higher prices that we had never seen before. Now we seem to be inching our way back up to it. And so, folks, I wish I could tell you this war is going to end, everything will go back to normal very quickly, but that's not going to be the case. Even if you were to start shipping oil this very moment from the Persian Gulf all over the world, to the United States, to Australia, to China, to Japan, to our allies in South Korea, it's going to take weeks to get it there still. So you're looking at a very big problem fomenting right now, and it's going to happen very, very quickly, folks. We're going to see those prices beginning to rise very, very soon. And I don't know if we'll have seen anything like this before with oil prices and gas prices at the pump. So, that being said, folks, let's move on now to the other problems we're facing in our economy right now. This is amazing, too, by the way. This comes out of CNBC. It says their 10-year Treasury yield shoots higher above the 4.53% after strong job report. So we had a good job report, right? Okay, 172,000 jobs graded. I like it. You like it. But here's the problem now. We still have to look at the reality, and that is inflation. Once these 10-year treasuries start to hit 5%, the 30-year bonds get much over the 5% mark, you're going to have troubles in the economy. This is indicating we're heading for bad times. And this is why I say this to you, because they're anticipating higher inflation right now. Right now, we're sitting at about 4%, roughly 3.8% core inflation, 4% overall. That's bad enough. We want it to be around 2%. So it says here that the benchmark 10-year U.S. Treasury, which influences borrowing costs on mortgages, other loans, has now risen more than 6 basis points to 4.538%. This is the highest it's been since May 21. The 2-year Treasury yield, which is more sensitive to the Federal Reserve policy expectations, climbed more than 10 basis points to 4.153%, reaching its highest level since February 25th, 2025. And now here we go. This is the part that's the biggest kicker, folks. This is the part I've been warning you about. The longer-dated 30-year Treasury bond yield, which moves in line with broader geopolitical risks, gained more than 2 basis points to 5.005%. This is what I've been talking to you about. This means the economy is going to start to drag. Now, again, I'm not happy to tell you this. This is the truth. Once you hit 5% on these Treasury yields, things are going to start to go much, much worse. Because, again, you can drop rates. Now it's more expensive to offshoot that inflation now. So in other words, if you have 4% inflation like we're seeing, well, you need 5% interest rates to try to bring those prices down. That's how that works. So while we can boast that we have 172,000 new jobs created, again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But the economy is not adapting to what it needs to. And certainly you're not seeing the wage gap meeting that demand now. You need 4% more this year than you made last year. How many people are earning that? Not a lot. Some, as you saw, are only earning about 3.4% increase from this year to last year. So the wage growth is not keeping up with the inflation rate is what I'm trying to tell you. And again, it's going to be more expensive for you to borrow money. It's going to cost more. That means people are going to be reluctant to do so. They want to see the rates drop. That's why Trump was so determined to get the rates lowered because, again, as the interest rates come down, that means more money is in the economy. More people are, again, spending money. It's because it's cheaper to borrow. More people are developing. More people are investing in their own companies and whatnot. We're not seeing that right now. And as these interest rates continue to rise, and I do believe they will continue to rise because inflation is going to be rising, it's going to be a difficult time for people to borrow money. So that's all I'm saying with that. So I want to make sure we're looking at that specifically as time goes on. And I don't think I have anything more I really want to say about this. Again, it's certainly not looking good, though. Certainly it's an indicator that things are not very good right now. And again, you're going to see, just besides the higher borrowing costs for consumers and businesses, you're also going to have an impact on housing and real estate markets, which again are already unaffordable for many people. So we'll see slower home sales, lower home prices, and reduced construction activity. Think of the effects on corporate borrowing and investment, too. That'll also be something that takes place. Influence really is going to come, though, from the inflation expectations. So we're seeing 5% right now because they're anticipating 4% inflation right now. And if that continues to get really bad, it's going to continue to go up, which we do not want right now. So keep a lookout on that, folks. As I tell you, always got to watch what you're doing. Something that is a little positive, though. Let's move on a little bit here. This comes from Fox Business right now, and something that is good, at least for the state of Texas, is that California loses Fortune 500 crown to Texas as billionaire tax threat looms. Yep. Leave it to Gavin Newsom to completely destroy California. Look at this. Who didn't see this one coming? I saw it coming from about a mile away. I'm sure you did too, because you listen to my show. But we have a shift now in the economic landscape that now has culminated in Texas, dethroning California as the nation's premier hub for Fortune 500 companies. And a lot of it has to do with the bad government policies that Gavin Newsom continues to enact, and the idiots in Sacramento continue to enact, and they think that they can get away with everything. Raise tax rates, raise sales tax rates, make things unaffordable, and that people will continue to pay these ridiculous costs when the society is crumbling around them, the infrastructure is crumbling around them. People don't want to put up with this garbage. They don't want to send their kids to crappy public schools. Again, California is second to last, if not the worst state for public education testing scores in the nation, which is not good. And I know this because, again, I taught in California for 11 years, folks. I saw everything that took place there. A lot of bright kids, but again, overall, not where it needs to be. Quite the opposite of where it was back in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, when California was developing and growing. And number one in public education test scores all across the country. It really was the California dream in that era. And even in the 70s, you had good middle class outlooks and you had pretty decent schools. But again, that's something of the past, folks. We're talking, 50 years ago. Quite a bit of time has passed since then. It's not gotten better. But what they've received now is data from the 2026 Fortune 500 list now showing that Texas leads with 57 headquarters now being placed inside the Lone Star State, compared with California's 56, marking a complete reversal from just 2 years ago when California held the lead. Now, additionally, corporations in Texas generated some $2.8 trillion in revenue, while those in California reported some $2.7 trillion. So we're seeing California's GDP. By the way, it's a great GDP, folks. Fifth largest in the world if it were its own country. It's a very big economy there. But Texas right now is the undisputed headquarters of the headquarters. That's what Greg Abbott's saying right now in the press, which I'm sure he's very happy about, leading the business world right now and investment with confidence in Texas because, again, they're a welcoming business climate. Lower tax. They don't have a state income tax there. And you have reasonable, predictable regulatory environment in the state. You don't have people, lunatics like Gavin Newsom running your state. And you're seeing a skilled and growing workforce. People are attracted to Texas. It hasn't been destroyed yet. And I say yet because that's always a possibility. Once the Democrats destroy California, where do they go? They go to Texas. They go to Arizona. They go to Florida. They go to Tennessee. They go to Colorado. Look what happened to Colorado. Again, Colorado used to be a red state. Now look what it is now. I don't think it's a blue paradise by any stretch of the imagination. It's a blue blunder, if you will. But people in business are choosing Texas because that's how Texas works. It's a welcoming state. By the way, that used to be California, by the way. Back in the early part of the 20th century, that was California. California was the welcoming. It was the freest state in the Union. And of course, you get a Jerry Brown. You get his father, a Pat Brown in there. You know, you enact some of these democratic policies, you take away a little bit of freedom, and things slowly but surely get worse and worse and worse. And where's California now? Ranks the number one worst state to do business in of all 50 states. Forbes, year after year, always reports on this. And again, it's awful to see this. And by the way, you're seeing a lot of the oil companies leaving. Exxon, Chevron, Phillips 66. You have Samsung. SpaceX, X, all these companies, these big companies now, are largely incorporated into Texas. Again, mostly coming from California into the Lone Star State. So it's sad to see this. I really have to tell you this. And I hate to see this happen to California. There's lots of great people in California. I know many of them. They're hard workers. They love the country. They love the state. They want to improve things. But they're struggling because they can't vote these morons out of office. And we'll save that for Monday when we talk about a lot of these races. I kind of alluded to this yesterday on the program. Something's rotting in Denmark in the election system. And by the way, I've seen this for many, many years. I've expressed my frustration with the voting results in the state. But change needs to happen before California can recover. It's not going to recover voting in the same schmucks Democrats year after year. The do-nothings. The fact that Karen Bass would be in first place again after she let part of the city burn down, just goes to show you either we have a lot of stupid people living in Los Angeles or we have a very rigged voting system. I'll just leave it to you like that. And by the way, same thing with Xavier Becerra, who now they're claiming is in first place right now, which is amazing to me because he was hitting, single digits about 2 months ago? Now he's more popular than the Republican candidate that has been leading consistently this entire time. A guy who, when he was HHS secretary, lost 325,000 children, enacted some of the most draconian vaccine laws and requirements in the country. This guy, this do-nothing idiot? Someone give me a break on this one. I mean, my God. Ridiculousness. Absolutely. It's unbelievable. But this is what they're putting out to you right now. So we'll see how that all plays out as time goes on. And again, it takes a while for California to count. That way they get all those mail-in ballots in, right? That I'm sure are authentic. Anyways, I digress again. Let's look at this article out of Quartz now. This one's interesting too. It says here that Google is now pledging to replenish more water than its data centers consume by 2030. Well, that sounds nice, doesn't it? The company has announced that $17 million in new stewardship projects and $500 million in commitment to public water infrastructure. Isn't that nice? Yep. They published this this came out on Wednesday. And it says, including a goal to replenish more water than it consumes at its data centers by 2030. Across 97 watersheds, those 165 projects are projected to restore upwards of 19 billion gallons of water each year by 2030. A figure that Google says would exceed twice what it has consumed in 2024. Now, this sounds nice, doesn't it? You have a big corporation moving into your area, and they're going to use lots of water. Sounds okay, though. They're going to be able to replenish it, right? Sounds good. So here's what they're saying. It says Google now replenished more than 7 billion gallons of water. The company said roughly equivalent to the annual usage of 70,000 average U.S. households to reach its 2030 target. The company is also evaluating more than 700 projects submitted through a water replenishment request for information. So here's the thing I want to say to you about this. Again, this all sounds great, right? Google moves in, you're going to have more water for the farmland and what have you, wherever you may be. These data centers are going to cost lots of money. First of all, the electricity grid is going to be affected by this, certainly if they don't build their own. And they also require lots of water in order to utilize, to keep these things up and running. So here's the problem I have with all this. So Google can pledge to replenish the water they use and provide for more of these communities. And again, it sounds good. Oh, we're going to get even more water. We need this. Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Here's the issue. Is that Google is just one company. One company that's moving into maybe a more rural area or a suburban area or what have you. It doesn't matter where it is. What about the other 1,635 other companies? That's a lot of data centers, is it not? I mean, we look at Amazon, they're going to be using data centers, Microsoft, Meta, Oracle, Larry Ellison, really? Is he going to replenish the water that he uses too? And what happens if we're in a drought? Do the data centers pull back on the storage? Probably not. I wouldn't bet on it. So what does that mean for you? Are you going to take on Google? Are you going to take on Amazon? Or Meta or Oracle? Of course you're not. What about, too, when we bring in some of these rare earth mineral refining facilities right here in America, which I think are useful, by the way. I think we need to have this. What happens then? Those also require lots of water, lots of electricity in order to utilize the system and keep it running. We have to think long-term about this. Now, while this sounds great, okay, we're going to get us some more water, they're going to open up the water table, this and that, okay, great. But what if we're in a drought? What if you can't do this? Do you move out? Do you not utilize the data centers that you want so desperately? Only time will tell. And, and all this, I think about the farmers, the ranchers, and the communities that will be affected by getting this type of water. Would you have something, for example, like a limitation on how much water you can utilize? And I only say this to you because this comes to mind because when I was in California, they put something through Sacramento, and Jerry Brown approved this. It was each house would only use 50 gallons of water per day. So that would drastically cut down the amount of water use. Think if you water your lawn, or think if you're doing dishes or the laundry and just what have you. You're going to use a lot of water. That water gets used up pretty quickly. So you're going to limit a household, depending on how big it is, down to only 50 gallons of water used per day, capped. Well, is there any cap on what these data centers can use by these big corporations? Again, you could throw millions of dollars into it. But if the water supply is not there, if you're in a drought like we have seen now in the Midwest, what do you do then? Do you pump the water? Do you get water? What do you use? Do you use wastewater? Again, this is one of the alternatives they're talking about here. What do you do then? Because you're certainly not, as your own self, going to be taking on Google moving forward. And again, I'd love to see the type of lawsuit, by the way. Taking on Google? Yeah, right. Good luck. Good luck with that one. Let me know how that goes for you, by the way. So we've got to be serious, though, about this. These data centers are going to be something new, something we've never seen before. And while we could talk about reusing water or wastewater, utilizing that, getting into utility partnerships with these communities where they operate, you're going to have a big chunk of your water supply locked into these corporations. Now, they could pledge all day long. What's their commitment if the water supply ceases or diminishes to exist as currently is, used by the people of these communities? What's going to happen then? So there's another part of this we have to talk about. And again, like I said, if you're in a more rural area, what about the farmers that needed to water their crops or give to their livestock or the ranchers need to do? What's going to happen then if they don't have that? Do the ranchers go away? Do the farms go away? Because obviously they use lots of water as well. So I'm interested to see how this conversation goes. And by the way, the same thing goes with the electrical grid. I have a big concern about that as well. All for what? To store more data about you and I? Probably. That's probably the way it works. But I thought that was interesting too, folks, since we're talking about obviously growth and, of course, this expansion into AI and what exactly will happen as a result of it. Let's jump into the stock market numbers now, though. Let's not waste any more time. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones trading at $51,102.62. In the red today, down some 0.89%. We got the S&P 500 trading at $7,434.60 a share, down almost 2% today. And the Nasdaq trading at $25,936.41 a share, down almost 900 basis points today. And by the way, the Nasdaq falls the most in nearly 8 months as the chips tumble. We have the S&P 500 9-week winning streak, though, set to a complete end now as time goes on. And again, a lot of this relates to what we see in a lot of the tech stocks. So let's jump over to that right now. Let's look at Bitcoin right now, trading at $63,269 flat, up some 5.44%. Again, the government is bullish on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency, so I'm not shocked about this that they're making a comeback. But I remember earlier in the year, it was roughly around, $83,000 a share? It was up pretty good. And now we're seeing it kind of dropping a little bit, but it's slowly making a comeback as time goes on. Looking at Amazon, we got $253.19 a share, down 0.24%. Apple trading at $311.26 a share, up barely at 0.01%. Our wonderful friends over at Google trading at $369.98 a share, down 0.59%. Tesla, good old EV, the future, if you will, or so we're told. Trading at $396.15 a share, down some 5.33%. Microsoft, $419.75 a share, down 1.94%. Nvidia, trading at $207.75 a share, down almost 5% today. Meta, looking good at $627.57 a share, up 0.474%. Micron trading very well at $996 flat, but down 7.74%. Broadcom trading at $418.91 a share, down 12.59%. My goodness. So yeah, quite a bit of a dip right now in a lot of these tech stocks right now. And again, you're seeing the rotation out of the tech sector into things like healthcare and other financials right now. The chip makers like Broadcom are under a lot of pressure, though, from the AI revenue misses that they're seeing right now. Again, what we talked about, you need helium for these computer chips, right? We need these we need these resources for a lot of the AI, and we're not getting that in there right now. So again, I tell you, the Iran war is having these great ramifications as to what's going on in our economy. There's no way around that, folks. All right, let's look at oil right now. Let's take a jump into that. Again, I told you before, we're seeing the prices, at least per barrel, dropping just significantly. We've got West Texas Intermediate now trading at $90.19 right now, down some 3.06% today. We have Brent crude trading at $93.11 per barrel. So we see oil prices falling again. We see Oman coming out with an announcement, though, that operations will be proceeding normally very, very soon. So there is some optimism in that category. But again, as I told you, right now the markets are greatly reflected on rhetoric, on the sentiment of how the market will be moving. But once that supply is no longer there, you cannot deny that. That's when the panic sets in, and that's when things obviously get much more out of the control. So while we see oil right now at $93 per barrel, you're going to see those prices skyrocket once, of course, that realization sets in that nothing else is coming in. That is going to be happening very, very soon, folks. Mark my words on that. Take that to the bank with you. Make sure you cash it. You're going to need to. All right, moving on to precious metals. We've got gold trading at $4,356 flat right now, down 3.31% today. We have silver also in the red today, down 7.03%, trading at $68.77 per share. Platinum trading at $1,788.60 a share, and palladium trading at $1,256.50 a share. So gold falls as the robust U.S. jobs data cements bets on higher interest rates. And so you kind of see this relationship about what's going on. The higher the interest rates go, usually the price of gold will drop significantly, just because, of course, the dollar will get a little bit stronger there. And so you kind of see that adverse effect with the two. Again, I think, though, as inflation begins to rise, you see the weakness in the dollar, and then, of course, you'll see the exact opposite. I'm still somewhat bullish on gold right now. As I told you before, I do think, and by the way, it's still been predicted, that it may hit $6,000 per ounce sometime this year. And I still do believe that could happen. So these are something to keep an eye on, folks. Again, you see silver. Again, it's being used as a commodity, of course. Obviously, it's used in the manufacturing of certain things, like, for example, military-grade things. They need silver for it. But it's also a precious metal that we use to trade. So that's why you're seeing silver struggle as well. All right, folks, that'll do it for our stock market report this week. A lot of things in the red, though, folks. A lot of things in the red. All right. Moving on, we have some other developments now. I think you'll be interested to hear this right now. This comes from Newsweek. And it says, House passes Ukraine aid bill. We're passing Ukraine aid bills while our economy is in the tank right now. Amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. The U.S. House of Representatives have now passed a Ukraine aid bill with a 226 to 195 vote, with a block of Republican lawmakers breaking with the party leadership and President Donald Trump to advance new security assistance and sanctions against Russia. This, again, is stupid in and of itself. Why would we be allocating, look at this. It says the Ukraine Support Act delivers more than $1 billion in security and reconstruction funding for Ukraine and authorizes up to $8 billion in military financing loans, alongside a package of new economic sanctions targeting Russia's key industries. Let me tell you something. We gave them how much since the start of this war took place in February of 2022? We've given them over $300 billion of our taxpayer dollars. Ukraine is losing the war. They have about 2 million dead soldiers right now. We know that they are committing drone attacks, certainly on residential areas in different parts of Russia right now. We know they tried to assassinate Putin not too long ago as well, with our help, by the way, and Germany's. Russia knows this, by the way. Why are we continuing on with this? And I say this to you not because I want Ukraine to suffer, but we don't have the money to do this. And yet we always seem to find money for more war and for our allies, never for us. When's the last time, for example, we passed a big infrastructure spending bill where we're going to rebuild America, we're going to drop new cement, drop new asphalt, we're going to have brand new streets, brand new sidewalks, our schools are going to be renovated, modern, do all that? When's the last time we saw that in this country? We never have money for that. We never have money for healthcare. We never have money for roads or schools. Those are things we all utilize, folks. Shouldn't we be getting something from the money we pay to D.C. every single year when it goes to the IRS and the Treasury? Shouldn't we get something in return, at least some brand new street signs or something? Yet they always have money for war. It's one of those odd relationships I've ever seen in my entire life. We don't need to be involved in this. Pull the rug out from the cokehead Zelenskyy, the failed actor, the vulgar comedian, whatever you want to call him, the dunce who's now suspended, elections for 2 years now in his state? People don't even like Zelenskyy in Ukraine. Are you going to give this clown more money? Again, most of the money we've given them, unaccounted for. The weapons, unaccounted for. It's on the black market. Money's been pocketed by the oligarchs and the other people that run the country. What's interesting, though, is Zelenskyy has now come out saying he wants to meet with Putin. Well, because, again, he knows it's over. Once Putin, by the way, he should have done this long ago. Why he's let this drag out for over more than 4 years is beyond me. This is a total loss. And by the way, most Russians are not pleased about this as well. He should have crossed the Dnieper River a long time ago, taken Kiev, and ended it right then and there. Now, there's a lot of Russian history in Kiev. That's where the Orthodox Church was formed. So I understand he doesn't want to bomb the place. But just take the city, get rid of Zelenskyy, have free and fair elections, if you can, and end this. Take the land that you've acquired in the Donbass and Zaporizhia. Take those areas and be done with it. What is taking so long? This war of attrition now that he's found himself in is backfiring on him. It's leading to more deaths than necessary. You're seeing people flee Ukraine, which is not good too. But this is no good. And the idea we're giving them new funding for reconstruction in their country, and especially in a war that should have been over in a month. Zelenskyy himself and Putin were going to come together a month after this war began. Boris Johnson, Joe Biden, the two dunces that they are, came out and told Ukraine, no, you don't have to do that. We'll fund you. We'll put money into this. You'll fight off those evil Russians. It'll be just fine. Don't worry about it. And look where we are now. Nothing's fine. The country lie in ruin, and Russia still is advancing. They haven't deterred a damn thing. So what do we spend $300+ billion on? To lose a war, a proxy war against Russia? To weaken Russia? By the way, this goes back not just to Trump, by the way, even though his own CIA was training Ukrainians how to kill Russians during his first year in office. This goes back to the Obama administration, Obama-Biden, right? Obama was a point man for Ukraine. We also saw, for example, the Maidan Revolution in 2014 again, leading to all things leading up to the point of where we were in 2022, though. So it wasn't Putin that wanted this war. It was obviously the West that wanted this. And of course, Zelenskyy's ridiculous idea to join NATO, again, which should not have happened, should have even been entertained. But this is where we are. And this is why we have these ridiculous conflicts. But the idea that we go and we give more money now, we're going to give $8 billion in military financing loans to a country that lost most of the money we gave them? It's just, again, where is the House leadership? Where is Mike Johnson on this? This is so stupid. This is really, really stupid. Look at this. Look who backed the bill. Of course. All the usual suspects. Of course. This is ridiculous. I can't believe this. Anyways, that's where we are, folks. We're giving Ukraine more money as time goes on. By the way, the Daily Star has Zelenskyy now asking Putin for a meeting to end the war, as they can't wait for the United States. Even though the United States has been the biggest benefactor among other European countries to Zelenskyy, and who has always wanted more money, hasn't he? Comes to the White House, we need more money. Hey, it's coming to you next. Yeah, I'm sure Russia's coming here next, you schmuck. What a dunce. This idiot. Unbelievable. Look at this. Ukrainian president. He's not even the president. The guy suspended elections using martial law over 2 years ago. He's not the president. And by the way, didn't Trump tell him we wanted the elections to happen? Weren't they supposed to happen last year? What happened to that? Where's the board of peace on that one? Nowhere to be seen. But apparently he's written a letter now, an open letter to Vladimir Putin right now, to hold a meeting between the two countries to finally end the war. Zelenskyy tells Putin in the letter, Ukraine proposed to end this war, and it would be wrong to wait for the United States and Donald Trump, as they are fully focused on the issue of Iran. Yeah, he's really focused on that right now, isn't he? The Kremlin has also now confirmed that they have seen the letter from Zelenskyy. Also in the letter, he says, the choice is yours, and enough of the war. Ukraine proposes to end the war. This must be done honestly, with dignity, and with guarantees that the war will not be reignited. Oh, yeah. Even though the war went out because of you, idiot. My God. Russian presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov has confirmed the Kremlin has seen the letter sent by Zelenskyy. So we'll see how Putin responds, how Peskov, how Lavrov all respond to this letter. I think they would take this so long as they get the agreement that they want. That Ukraine does not join NATO, that they, again, acquire the lands that they would like. Again, the Donbass region, the Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, all those areas. Obviously, keeping Crimea, too. I do believe they will want to annex all that, of course. But this is the way it's going to move forward. And, of course, they want a complete ceasefire. In other words, they want a peace negotiation. They don't want just a ceasefire between the two countries. So I think Putin will stay firm on all that. And he'll get what he wants because, again, he's winning the war. And the winners of the war tend to, again, set the terms for the agreement. And that's what we're seeing right now. So we'll see if anything takes place, if the two will meet or scheduled to meet, and see if Zelenskyy is finally serious to end this conflict, which he should have done quite a long time ago. I think we all could agree on that one. All right, folks, moving on. What else did the wonderful U.S. Congress vote on recently? Take a look at this one. This will make you sick to your stomach. 4 Senate Republicans broke ranks to kill another effort to pass President Donald Trump's marquee voter ID and election integrity legislation as the GOP marches to fund immigration enforcement. Just like last time, you had Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell, and now Tom Tillis, all joining the Democrats to thwart the move. Now, we need to get the SAVE Act passed for several different reasons. One, we need voter ID laws in this country. We should have proof of citizenship to vote. I don't think any of that should be controversial. Do you? Of course you don't, because you're a sane thinker. But the problem is, what they want now is they want to thwart this. Again, largely because it's President Trump. Despite it being very popular among Republicans and Democrats alike, everybody wants this. And why wouldn't you? It just seems like those in the Congress do not want this. Anyways, Mike Lee was speaking to Kelly McEnany about the vote, and this is what he has to say about this. Take a listen to clip 1.
Americans overwhelmingly support the need for voter ID. They overwhelmingly support the need to verify citizenship from those registered to vote in this country. The Save America Act would make sure that both of those pieces are taken care of. That's why the overwhelming majority, a supermajority of Republican voters, of Democrat voters nationwide, want this passed, and even want it passed before the midterm elections. And that cuts across the board in people of both political parties. The only place where this is even remotely controversial is in the halls of Congress, with Democrats in the halls of Congress. That's why we've got to get this done to make our elections safe and secure again.
He's absolutely right. Now, what they try to do, they try to attach this bill to a nearly $70 billion budget reconciliation package, again geared towards funding ICE and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol. Meant that the amendment that Lindsey Graham put forth would need at least 60 vote threshold in order to pass. Now, that, of course, proved to be too high of a bar to pass. Obviously, it didn't come through. But, again, it's a result that further solidification of the political reality in the upper chamber that the Save America Act has a little chance of passing. Certainly as it is right now. Now, I don't think this should be controversial that anyone passes. I think we should obviously show who exactly was against this, and let's figure out why. Why would you be against, again, proof of citizenship when you need it for every other damn thing to do? Drive a car, you need a driver's license, don't you? You have to show who you are. You have to prove who you are. If you want to buy alcohol, you have to show an ID, don't you? Oh, yeah, of course. Want to start a business? Guess what? You got to show an ID. Take out a bank loan? You got to show an ID. Rent a house? Buy a house? Got to show an ID. So there's so many different things in which you need an ID in order to do. But yet, for some reason, you just don't need it when you go vote for the most important thing that really defends our republic. And that, of course, is voting. Voting and ensuring that the people that you selected to vote to represent you, which we all have a right to know who is representing us, that's the only thing the Democrats don't want. Everything else you need it for. By the way, you had an AOC, a complete airhead. You know, AOC, airhead of Congress. That's what her name really should be. That's who she is. Then you have Kamala Harris saying it's a new poll tax. Again, stupidity. A poll tax, really? Folks, if you're serious about voting and you would want to, for example, prove that you are who you say you are, which you should do every time you vote, it's not unreasonable to acquire a driver's license. And she says, well, it costs almost $100 to get a passport, which is necessary. Okay, genius. So then what do you propose? Do you propose the government does it for free? I'm fine with that. Make sure it's for free. I mean, this is the stupidity behind these idiots. Oh, you have to pay money. Well, I have to pay money for my driver's license too. I have to pay money for my vehicle registration, my insurance. That might stop someone from driving an automobile. Is that also discriminatory? And by the way, it's held for everybody, not just for one group of people. So everything falls on deaf ears, of course. Again, there's no reason why we shouldn't be requiring this. Again, we're seeing this especially take place in California right now. There was a drop yesterday, early in the morning, in the LA mayoral race between Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass. And some 25,000 votes came in, and zero went to Spencer Pratt, who was the second leading candidate in this race. Now, again, mathematically, logically, it makes no sense that you would count that many ballots and not one single vote would go towards Spencer Pratt, who, by the way, is picking up a lot of momentum in this race. So this is all right on the open. We all can see this. And the fact that we do nothing about this is another major problem. So we're going to keep an eye on that race. Again, they hope that you don't pay attention to it. They hope that, oh, yeah, I voted. Oh, look, Spencer Pratt's in second. Good. Okay. And then no one pays attention to it. And, of course, they get away with taking away from the real candidate. Hey, look at you have Alex Padilla, California, another useless. Look at him. And yes, it's already unlawful for non-citizens to vote in the United States. Then why don't you pass the bill, moron? What this amendment does is it mirrors earlier attempts to push through the president's priorities to try to take over elections, to ban vote by mail. Yeah, absolutely. Because we know exactly what happens. Look no further than the LA mayoral race. Look no further than it. How do you have 25,000 ballots come in from God knows where? God knows if they're verified. God knows if you're checking. Because you don't check in California. You don't check for an ID. You don't check to see if someone lives where they live. You just let people vote, and that's it. That just causes the ability for fraud to rise significantly, and you're seeing it right in front of your eyes. And nobody says a damn thing about it. I haven't seen any of this, by the way, in the news media. And I have no idea why. I mean, we see these things happen right in front of our faces, and we don't say a damn thing about it? Oh, look at this. He says it's pretty damn offensive. Yeah, shut the hell up. How about that? Offensive. What's that jerk done for California other than nothing? Exactly. Oh, by the way, folks, we have only a little bit of time remaining in the program. Unfortunately, I wanted to go over this in great detail with you. And I'll have to go through it very, very quickly, because we only have about 2 minutes remaining in the program. The New World Screwworm, that's what it's called, a screwworm fly, has now reached southern Texas. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture now confirmed this on Wednesday. They found a 3-week-old calf in La Pryor, Texas, about 50 miles from the Mexico-U.S. border. And a Texas veterinarian had said they established a quarantine zone prohibiting the movement of any warm-blooded animal, which these flies tend to dwell on. So the fly, what it does, it burrows in the skin. It's a flesh-eating insect. And it burrows in the skin, and it can obviously affect the livestock. But what it does, it lays eggs, and the larvae and what have you, again, release more of these flies, which again could kill the animal or certainly damage the animal as time goes on. But what they said here is that hopefully the calf will properly recover here, shouldn't die. And by the way, I want to say really quickly too, though, the calf itself was not shipped from abroad. We're seeing this in Mexico, parts of Central America, where this is becoming more prevalent. The screwworm, was eradicated in the 1970s. We haven't had any real cases in any significant number. But since we're aware of what's going on in Central America, now we're looking at this more and more. But I saw one idiot, this Brian Tyler Cohen. He has some stupid show nobody really watches. And what he says was, well, this is all Trump's doing. Trump has allowed Doge to go in and stop the monitoring of the screwworm. But again, this was a domestic animal. It was born here in the United States. It didn't come from Mexico. And by the way, just so we're clear about all this, the problem that he runs into is that we haven't had any herds come in since 2025, of May of 2025 last year. So this was a local domestic calf that acquired this. And by the way, we can't control what happens across the border because, again, a fly can simply go across the border. It's almost as stupid as saying a mask would stop the spread of COVID. That's what this idiot is proposing, that it was Trump's fault that we're seeing the New World Screwworm case in the U.S. is all Trump's doing. It's not. And it's pretty foolish to think so. But it does look like we've got a handle on it, and hopefully, God willing, it does not affect any further herd in the United States. As I told you earlier, we have one of the smallest herd sizes in the country in 75 years. So we certainly don't need anything like this affecting us here in the United States, folks. And hopefully that does not happen as time goes on. So I want to make that very, very clear to you that it looks like we have a handle on this. They're going to be releasing some millions of screwworms that are sterile that will hopefully mate with the females and will hopefully diminish the population moving forward. Hopefully. We'll see if that works out. Folks, thank you again for being here. I appreciate you so much. Have a great and blessed weekend. I'll be back here with you on Monday for more groundbreaking news on the next Marco Jury Show. Until then, be good, stay busy. God bless.